This week on the Minding Your Business podcast, we talk about hooks, hashtags, and the power of reposting content. Welcome to the Minding Your Business podcast. I'm CJ Jolliffe with everyone's favorite co-host.
That'd be me, Aaron Geralds.
I thought I'd steal it from you this time. And so you don't have to self-proclaim, I wanted to give that to you.
I appreciate that. I'm with everyone's favorite. First host, prime host. Lead host. What are you going by?
I don't know. I just go by CJ. Yeah.
Host with the most. Okay.
I also answer to dude. So dude host. Host dude.
Yeah, we decided that last week. People that don't get your dudeness don't belong here. Okay.
Right.
So I don't know exactly what you have planned, but I would like to touch on the fact that last week, well, let me just start off by saying I recognized and realized that I don't know what I thought I knew. And I don't know what I think I know. Like, I'm constantly coming to these epiphanies where I'm like, oh my God, I finally understand it. If that's it. And then I lean in hard and then it doesn't work at all. And so we talked last week a little bit about the videos that I was doing, the little shorts, and I'm putting them on TikTok. And I'm running at 800-900, like doing amazing. My hooks are good. Everything's working. I'm like, I got that down. So now it's time to start focusing on. And then we figured out I missed a couple of days, and I thought, oh, it's the algorithm. And then I thought, I can't blame the algorithm. I got to blame myself. What can I change? What can I do? So I'm like, I'll make better hooks. I'll make better videos. And I can tell you that I don't know that that's what I did this week. But when you said, do it, make the hooks a couple different ways, put it out. So I didn't do that.
Okay.
But
glad I could help.
But what I did do instead, and this is going to sound silly, is I made what I thought were really strong hooks. Like I wrote the outline, and then I spent as much time on the hook as the outline. Okay. And so I tried a little bit different approach. So each of the concepts that I go over in the lessons, I will start off by saying, has this ever happened to you? And then I will say, I will hint at an example of the use of the technique.
Okay.
This week, instead, I start out using the technique. And then I say, surprise, that technique is this, and this is what it's used for. This is how people use it. This. So that people either fall for it or don't fall for it. They either see it coming or they don't see it coming. But I do it, and then I explain it.
Okay.
So it's a different approach. And it's worked out goodish. Okay. When I say goodish, I mean now my videos are back to getting like 10 subscribers each time they go out. It's 3, 4, 500. It's not back up to 800 yet, but they're better. And so I thought, well, damn, I wanted 800 views and I wanted 20 subscribers per video. This stinks. And then I said, wait a minute. I know that. Well, I don't know that. Because I was like, I know that TikTok penalizes you if you reuse content and you put it back out. And then I was like, why do I think I know that? I think I've seen it somewhere. Oh, who cares? I'm going to test it. So I saved the video from TikTok. I didn't even go back into Opus or anything. I just saved the TikTok. Then I re-uploaded it again as if it was new content. Changed the description. And then I added a tiny bit of very, very soft background music. So it's slightly different, just in case, And I put it back out, and it gets 350 to 400 more views and 10 more subscribers. And I'm like, because 90%, 95, 98% of the viewers of my videos are non-subscribers. I'm like, why am I looking for subscribers? Because every time I put out my videos, it goes out to non-subscribers anyway. 98% or over 95, averaging out over 95% of the people seeing my videos are first-time viewers.
Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, then shouldn't I be able to put the same video out a couple of different times, slightly varied, and not have somebody go, why you keep putting out the same video? I keep watching you every day and see your video twice. If they see my video in their feed twice, they're going to think, oh, that's just the same video
Same one.
coming in my feed again.
That's a good point.
So they're not going to get necessarily upset. And what's my goal? My goal is to be in their face anyway. And if it's only for 2 seconds and then later on during the day, it's for 2 more seconds, what's the problem with that?
Right.
And so I'll get dropped off their algorithm anyway. If they're only 2 seconds and past it swinging by, I don't want those people on there anyway. I want the people that want to watch it and get the information and learn from it.
Right.
And so I've done that now 2 days in a row, and it's worked both times equally well. And so I thought, I wonder if that'll work on Instagram. So I did it on Instagram, and it worked equally well on Instagram. I'm almost thinking it makes at least as much sense, because after the first day, they stop showing your video. So you could post
Right.
the same video 3 times, and at the end of the day, delete 2 of them. So that your feed doesn't look like oh man, just over and over the same 3 video.
Right.
Nope. I mean, other than it's going to delete a few comments if each of them are getting comments or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting take.
But have you ever gone back to a video that you watched a while back, 2-3 weeks ago, and been, I commented on that video. I want to go see how my comment's doing.
Once.
Uh-huh.
And it was basically because I felt like what I said was really, really profound. I was impressed with myself, and I was trying to like relay what I had said, but I couldn't remember exactly what it was. And I was like, oh man, I said it so well. And I was trying to find
copy
it,
and paste it. And then, okay.
Yeah. But no, that's not something that I would normally do. I don't have my moments of, just sheer genius are few and far between. So, no, I mean, that's an interesting, I would love to see what that actually works out to. Right. I mean, I think the worst thing that could happen is maybe you lose some subscribers, but like you said, it's going out primarily to non-subscribers. So
yeah, when I go back in and I look at my the stats, it's 90, almost 98% every single time to non-subscribers.
Yeah, I would actually, you should do it. Do it for like a straight month, and then let's compare how that month, like the next month, performs compared to the previous month.
Sure. Well, and the trouble is, if it performs equally well, then it's twice as good.
Well, or 3 times, depending on how many times,
how many times it would have dropped down, because you're right. Because I was getting a lot of traction in the beginning and now not so much.
Right.
I'm also wondering if it's due to my hashtags or whatever. I don't know if those even work anymore.
On X, they're not. I don't want to say they're irrelevant, but X is actually said in some of their guidance. Like you don't have to put hashtags in.
Yeah, we're not using them for you anyway.
Yeah. I think some places it might still. I mean, I'm an old school user, so if I'm trying to search something, I still have a tendency to put, when I'm searching, hashtag whatever.
Right.
But yeah, it's just not how the search function really works anymore, because it's really more of a search function than just a hashtag keyword tag.
It's not a for you or it has to be for search. So yeah. So that's
kind of what I've been testing recently is, for the minding your business videos, the highlight reel.
Right. Okay.
The first couple of weeks I was very, very diligent with putting in hashtags to the point where I would, let's say, one of the hashtags might have been like, this is not a good example, but like productivity hacks.
Okay.
Well, maybe on maybe on TikTok, it would be like productivity, but on Instagram, it would be productivity hacks. I would look and see whatever the higher, value was, like, okay, this one's 16 million versus, a similar keyword that maybe I thought I was going to go in and do is like, it's only 10 million. Well, I'm going to go with the higher number. Right.
Oh man.
And so I was going through each platform and doing that and picking and choosing. And now I am just putting in basically the same keywords and not adding in hashtags. I'm testing to see if
Okay.
there's a difference in discovery and
Man, okay, that's interesting. Too, I was always told to do the absolute opposite of what you're doing.
yeah, to niche down, right? To go
So
after the
yeah, I
smaller
look
audience.
at it and I'm like, psychology, 6 billion. Okay. Psychology hacks, 1.2 billion. Okay.
Right.
Psychology tricks, you know, 0.6 billion. And I'm like, well,
Right.
that's the one I'm going after. I have a much more likely chance of coming up on somebody's feed if it's far fewer
Right.
people
Well,
putting
why not do
stuff in
both?
than, well, I've tested it now. I do the big ones on one video and the small ones on the other video, and they're performing equally well.
Well, but
I'm
why not
getting
put them
about
both on
10
the same video?
subscribers and
Because
then,
you're going to get them either way, you know.
yeah,
But
but you can only put so many. I'm also a firm believer that if you put more than about 5 or 6,
mhm,
they stop having it carrying any weight.
right, right.
So I
Which
don't
I
want
think
to
is
put
funny too,
12
because I'm sorry, I run across posts all the time that
with
have,
40.
yeah, exactly. And it's like, okay, well, I'm seeing this. It's obviously working for them, but then who knows why it's working? Maybe it's just an account with more authority, with more
Uh-huh.
a bigger following, even though it's not an account I follow. I don't know.
Yeah,
I will say this. It is definitely a learning curve, and I am not um nor do I necessarily care to be a social media expert. I do have people that I can lean on for that. Um,
yeah,
I just, I'm curious. And I think that that is probably an adjective that sums me up. I'm curious. I want more information. I was not
sure.
like a great student. I mean, I was
Right.
okay in college, but I've never stopped learning either. Like
Yeah,
I never will. I'm always going to be curious, but at the same time, I'm not going to be curious about things that I'm not curious about. So being told that I need to learn X, Y, or Z, that was difficult. You know, if I'm only
yeah,
interested in X and I'm not interested in Y or Z, um, that
yeah,
kind of like this is not a very good segue, but that makes me think of some AI stuff, that run across this week. Interesting
yeah,
things, but I
yeah.
also don't want to cut you off if you weren't done with your
No,
point.
that's it. I'm recognizing that I know, even when I feel like I know something, like, it just occurred, I finally get it.
Right.
That is such a short-lived experience because about the time that I go, I get it, and then I start to act on the new information that I think I've learned, I've obviously misinterpreted it, or that was great information for last week, but it doesn't apply this week.
I think that's actually probably more of what it is because everything's always changing, especially if you're talking about the internet or technology.
Yeah.
You can
So
be on the cutting edge now, but if you stop learning, if you
yeah.
rest,
So
then you're gonna be left in
okay.
the
So
dust.
that does that. Okay, that's a great segue into my next question or comment or comment question. Anyway, it's a comment question, and that is: do you think that there is a way to ride the crest, like to be ahead of the trends or to be ahead of everything? Or is it just kind of recognizing it as it's there and trying to keep abreast with it that way? Because I'm finding it extraordinarily exhausting and frustrating and exhilarating all at the same time to,
Yeah.
let's say, on a 10-day trend, I figure it out by day 7 and I get a little boost. And then, of course, after that, I'm greatly disappointed that it stopped working. And then I'm having to study what's happening. And then by day 7, I go up and I get a little boost because I'm on that for the last 3 days. Is that, am I wasting? Am I ever going to get ahead by doing that? Or is there something different? Do I need to like do the research or what am I missing?
I have a couple thoughts. I think the
Okay.
first thing that comes to mind is the law of diminishing returns, right? So you can put all this
Mhm.
extra energy in trying to stay on, I'm not even gonna say the cutting edge, but let's say the bleeding edge,
Yep.
where you're putting whether it's technology, like you're investing in technology, or it's like financially,
Right.
toys, tools, or if it's learning the newest thing or trying to ride a trend, like
Right.
at a certain point, you can always put in more time. And so I think
Right.
that you're gonna have to find a balance of where is that sweet spot with time invested versus return received.
Okay.
But also, yeah, I think it's like with business, with fitness, or whatever. there is no like neutrality. There's no stagnation. You are either growing or you're dying. You're growing or shrinking, right? You
Great.
might have this false sense of stagnation, but
Okay.
in reality, if you've stopped, everything else is like going to continue to move. So you're actually falling behind because that finish line has been placed further and further away. So
Yeah.
I think the important thing is to know that and to go in, approach whatever you're trying to do, whether it's, learn about AI, be on trend, whatever, it is always going to change. And all you have to do is be aware of that. Go into it with eyes wide open
Okay.
and know that you're going to have to put that effort in. I don't think it's necessarily important to look around and see where you are in comparison with everyone else. I think it's
Okay.
more about because then you start getting into that game of where you're comparing
Yeah.
yourself with
Yeah.
other people. I think it
Right.
really just comes down to like, is this something that I am naturally I'm passionate about? I can want to continue to learn about this part, or is it because then it's life giving, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
my
Okay.
that's my assumption.
Okay. I
And
think
then you
I'm
don't have to
picking
worry
up
about
what you're
burnout.
I think I'm picking up what you're putting down. And that is while I'm looking for what's happening, I'm outward facing.
Right.
And then the moment I go, well, now how do I do that in comparison to these people? I'm inward facing, which means that
Yeah.
that's when I stop moving. So it's at that moment that I slow myself down,
Right.
which is why everything continues to go. And then by the time I put myself into that place, now we're 5, 6, 7 steps ahead.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
mean, look
about
at other
just
stuff for inspiration, right? I mean, that's
yeah.
and that's a big part of that creative process, right? I don't know that there's ever anything that's really truly created, you know. It's just
Okay.
stolen, borrowed, whatever, and improved.
Regurgitated. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like music, right? So there's I don't know, I think a million new songs every year that are created, right? And there's only 8 notes in our scale, it's an octave. And yeah,
Uh-huh.
there's, sharps and flats and that kind of stuff, but there's only so many chords. And I mean, there are a lot of different ways to play a chord,
Right.
like especially on a guitar, but it's taking those same 8 notes and creating something that is yours, something that resonates with you.
Right.
And, colleague and I were talking about content this week. And, you know, I was kind of the, the, I don't know, maybe I'm a little pessimistic, or I was just like,
You
gosh, does
don't
the world
say.
need another content creator? And his whole thing is like, yes, because there's always new people. There's, always people that are looking for content to be consumed.
Right.
And whether it's people that are already looking for this thing or people that are new to the space that are coming in, they will be in, they're always going to be looking for some kind of content. And I actually like it's changed the way I think about it. Um,
Yeah.
and I think it's like a YouTube channel. Gosh, do we need, another or a podcast? Do we need another podcast? Right.
Uh-huh.
And here's the thing. Yeah, I think so because my
Ah, okay.
experience is my expertise, right? And your experience is your expertise and the conversations, the things that we can work through together is our own, unique experience coming together and I think creating something that's different.
Sure.
Um, and again, like
Yeah.
there's nothing new. It's all just kind of regurgitated and improved and iterated and whatever. But
For
at the same
sure.
time, like it's new to us. It's gonna be new to
Yeah.
someone else. So
Yes, yes. No, agreed. And uh it's kind of like saying, salt and pepper have been around forever, but how
right.
much salt in relation to how much pepper in relation to what it's on at that particular moment, for sure. And I'll tell you, does the world need another podcast? When you ask that question, I'm like, I don't know what's the world. Like, yes, I needed this podcast. I needed
Right.
a place every week to s- get out what's in my head, like to
Right.
talk about the things that I'm working on, the things to be able to relay my frustrations, my wins, the things that I've learned. And
Right.
if nothing else, if no one listens to it, great, because then at least I got it. Like I
Right.
got the value from it. Now, if anybody else ever, and it doesn't even have to be in this generation, if somebody later listens to it, if our conversations are somehow archived and then put into the next version of AI, I would rather them be using actual people's speech and thought to create or to contemplate or correlate new ideas from when I think a lot of our ideas, and this is my own biased opinion, I get that, are good.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, if we don't have those conversations, we don't create that idea. We don't create that good. And
Right.
yeah, I mean, again, like we could just have these conversations, and we did for a long time. And maybe
Yeah.
people don't, realize that this was actually born out of you and me meeting
Uh-huh.
weekly, and talking through ideas and all that stuff. And it was like, we have to just start recording these. We have to, and we recorded many before we ever
So many
released any.
oh god, before we even started making it into a podcast, because there was so many times we'd have a conversation where you go, oh, wait, remember you were talking about that? What were you saying? Because it is interesting. You would think we remember all of our own thoughts.
Right.
We remember all of the things we say. We do not.
Nope.
In fact, I was just having a conversation this morning, as a matter of fact, after dropping my son off to school with my wife, and I was telling her I'm listening to this book because I listen to books.
Right.
I do. And I actually learned that it's actually better for you to listen to books than we had previously thought, insofar as the language coming from a book read in audio, our brain processes each and every single word in proper grammar, context, and tone, right?
Okay.
Whereas when we're reading it, we skip all of the tiny words. That's just the way the brain works. They've done a bunch of studies. And if you're
Right.
reading to yourself, you read far faster than you read if you're reading out loud, because your brain
Yes.
has to focus on all of the tiny connection words and put it all together. So it actually is more beneficial for us to listen to a book read aloud or on audio than it is. We get a deeper understanding of it than if we read it ourselves.
Okay.
Okay, that's powerful, first of all. Number two, I read the book the first time. I bought the book. I have it on my shelf. I bought the book and I read it. And now I'm listening to it in audiobook. And I
Okay.
swear to you, it's not the same book.
You're hearing things that you don't remember reading.
100%.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute. I listened to this book, or I read this book like, oh gosh, now it'd probably be like 15 years ago. But I'm like, well, I'm a different person now. I'm going to take different things from the same exact words from the same exact part. I'm gonna perceive it differently anyway.
Right.
And the things that I need from that book now are different than the things I needed from it 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. But I'm thinking, oh my gosh, there are literally millions of books, and we're never going to get through all of them. And even if we did, we would have forgotten most of them.
Right.
Because I'm like, almost what's the point in reading the book but now I'm starting to see that when I read or when I do it, like the last lecture series that we just talked about on critical thinking, like that is influencing me and my thought process right now, because it's still hot in my attention. But give it 6 months to a year, I bet I could re-listen to it and be blown away by the information and be like, this is going to change the way I'm thinking and processing,
Yeah.
because it's not staying hot in my attention at that moment.
Yeah.
And so I thought, oh my gosh, that totally makes sense. I my ADHD brain, I'm all over the place. I just got a call today, and then I'll let you talk. I just got a call a couple of different days. I get different calls at different times, but I recognized I probably should update my Psychology Today profile, because I got approached and asked, like, do you mind seeing therapists? Are you comfortable to see therapists? And I was like, yeah. What do you mean? You mean talk to them or see them as client? Like, what do you? I was almost confused by what it meant, and then I
Okay.
realized, like, I forgot. First of all, there's a lot of stigma around getting therapy, and then there's a lot of stigma about therapists getting therapy, and I'm like, Oh my God. And it is a profession where we're like, oh my word, how am I going to do my job when you do my job? And you may well do my job better than I do my job. Yet you still need to see somebody to do their job, which is me doing your job for you that you would do for other people that I now. So
Right.
if you get in your head, it's scary. And I recognize, but I got to say, I won't say exactly, but I'll say between 20 and 40% of my clientele right now are probably in the mental health field.
Wow. I mean, I
Because
think that's great.
because
I
I'm
think
not
you need
afraid to
to.
see I'm not afraid to see other clients
Yeah.
that are also in the same line of work as me, because I'm like, there's so many facets to what we do and so
Mhm.
many specializations that if you are a child psychologist or a child therapist, then yes, all of the things you're used to doing and teaching are hot in your attention right now because that's your
Right.
focus, that's your specialty. That when it comes to how do you deal with coworkers or stress from life, or how do you take in all of this negative and then now what do you do with it? Like
Right.
those things are different. And that's what I do as I help adults who work stressful jobs live stress reduced lives. And so I'm like, okay, it makes sense that I'm doing it's like as if you said, no, I sell cars. And I'm like, what kind of car do you sell? Toyotas, or I service Toyotas. And I'm like, cool, but you're driving a Land Rover. That's a different kind of vehicle.
Right.
It would make sense that you'd have to take your vehicle to a different mechanic. We're both mechanics, but we
Right.
do different things. And so,
So I will take this and relate it to what I do. Right.
okay.
So in marketing or design or whatever it is so much easier to work on someone else's thing. Right.
Yeah.
Because one, I mean, I think there are a lot of reasons, but objectivity is much easier. As soon as you start working on your and there's limitations, there's boundaries. As soon as you
Sure.
start working on your own stuff, it's like, well, what do I want? I could do anything. And so it becomes really difficult to the point where I think one of the hardest things you can do as a marketer is to market yourself. And I think that that's where you have to have a team. You have to have a sounding board or a consultant, some kind of network that you work with
Right.
to kind of hold a mirror up, really, right?
Right.
And I can't even imagine what it would be like in like the mental health space where you're having to is probably the wrong word, where you are hearing people's highs and lows, probably a lot more lows than
Mhm.
highs, and help them work through that. And that's a lot of weight to then bear,
Right.
you know, uh, emotionally, mentally, whatever. And like something has to give. You have to have a place to vent that. I think that some of that, how is it any different? They're coming, someone's coming to you to work through some stuff. Why it'd be unfair for you to not be able to go to someone else. And I don't think
Yeah.
there should be a stigma. I understand it because
Sure.
at the
I
same time, like if I'm working with through marketing or something, I should know these things. Why do I have
right.
to talk to you about it? Right.
Right.
Like, and there would be and I think imposter syndrome would have an opportunity to really pop in there and,
Oh
be
man,
defensive and all kinds of things.
in
But
the beginning, absolutely it did. But one of the I say this all the time, and I know I sound like a broken record, I'm sure. Um, but I think words are very powerful. The words we use to describe things define those things, and it is hysterical in that every single one of the mental health professionals that come to me and they're like, "Man, it's so heavy." And I'm
mm,
like, first of all, you said heavy. And they're like, because all my clients come and they just dump out. And I'm like, man, you are carrying all of what happens
yeah,
because they're dumping it on you. And then you feel like you have to carry it. And now I need somewhere to dump it.
right.
Of course, that's going to feel heavy. Of course, that's going to feel uncomfortable. So I don't use that terminology at all. When my clients come in, they expose me to what is going on in their lives.
Mhm,
They share their insight. They don't share the stuff with me, they share
right.
their insight into it so that I can look at it from a different perspective. So for me, it isn't heavy. everybody brings in their stuff, and I'm like, well, I'm going to take it as fact. Everyone is different. Everyone has their own thing, their own way of seeing it, their own way of carrying it, their own way of
Yeah.
dealing with it, their own. I'm not going to expect you to do it the way I do it, but let's see if you're comfortable with the way you're doing it. Let's lean into it and do better. And if you're
Right.
not comfortable with it, are you interested in seeing a different way of doing it? And if so, let's lean into that. And if that one doesn't work, we'll find another one.
Yeah.
And I think by doing that, people see that they stop carrying it, and they kind of start to relax, and they're like, okay, I don't feel like I'm carrying it anymore. And I'm like, you don't need to. So it's simply redefining it, which
Right.
is what? Changing their perspective, right?
Right.
Changing the way that they see and interpret the thing that they're doing. Because they're
Mhm.
obviously doing good work. They're obviously taking that burden from that person, which is
Right.
awesome. Sort of, except for why they can take it off of that person, but why did they then putting it on
Pick it up and put
themselves?
it on. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So anyway, it's a matter of kind of just, and they already know. The beauty is they already know all of this stuff. I'm not teaching therapists new stuff. All I'm doing is simply bringing back into their attention what they already know, which is
Right.
so much easier, which is crazy because so many therapists get so nervous dealing with other therapists. And I'm like, here's the beauty is I already know what you know. I just know you've probably forgotten it because your attention is over here and
Right.
not over here. If your focus is in the bedroom, you don't notice the kitchen. If your focus is over, down the street, you don't notice what's happening in your yard. So
Yeah.
all I have to do is go, remember, you have to water your grass. And they're, oh, yeah. I don't have to tell them the value in watering, the reason you water, the logistics behind it, the science, I don't have to explain anything. I just have to remind them, pop it back into their attention, and whoop, they're off.
That
So,
reminds me of like what you were saying last week with like the coin, right? How you're looking at the coin and it's heads, right? But then the
mhm,
coin facing the other person
the
is
other person is
tails.
tails.
And so you're not trying to convince them that it's heads on this side. It's tell me what it looks like from your side. And so I think that
Right.
as just human beings, we need that. We need to be heard,
Mhm.
to feel like we're heard, right?
Right.
To feel like, some bit of shared experience.
Right.
One of the things that like I think of is just letting that out, right? Letting
Yep.
that whatever experience it is, letting it out, taking that weight off, um,
Right.
is like so important. Or you're gonna be in your head, you're gonna just drive yourself crazy. But as this is kind of like a stereotype, but I think
Yeah.
it's a societal norm, right? As men, especially guys that are, let's say, over 40, we have not really been allowed to do that. It's if you think of like the Marlboro Man,
Right. It wasn't
he's not
something taught
sitting
in
at
in
Starbucks
that
talking
generation.
about his feelings, right? He's out there, he's stoic, he's alone, he's a rock, you know,
Right.
but that's not really, I mean, that's not real, right?
Right.
And I think it obviously was different in previous generations. But if we don't, I think if we approach life like we are an island, it's a very
Mhm.
lonely place. And
Right.
my experience has been that I'm not the only one going through something, right?
Right.
Or I'm not the only one that's been through something. And there is so much that we have in common that we don't talk about,
Yes.
especially again as men,
Right.
and just knowing um, that you're not the only person that's gone through something is kind of refreshing. But also,
Right.
like, the things that maybe I've struggled with or the hard times that I've had, when I hear another guy tell his story, I'm like, wow, I thought I had it bad. I don't want that, and it gives
Uh-huh.
you a fresh perspective. And you're kind of like, hey, yeah, that sucked that I went through that thing, but man, I'm so glad I didn't go through that. And it just,
Right.
I don't know. There's that taking off the weight that you get when you get to share those stories, those issues that you've gone through. And again, there's not really societally, there's not really a place for men to do that
Right.
outside of therapy. But I think that that's a great place to do it. It shouldn't be the only place, but
Right.
that's my own perspective.
Sure.
I've had a
No,
little bit of experience with it, but
yeah, no, I think it makes sense. I liked the analogy where you're like, we're all unique and different, but we're also we share so many commonalities. Like I think when you said an island, I'm like, God, really take it down. Like everybody is a grain of sand. And every single grain of sand, if you get it under a microscope, has its own facets, its own rounded parts, its own.
Yeah.
They're every single one unique, like snowflakes. Every single grain of sand is a different than the one next to it. But
Yeah.
when you back up, you look, you go, oh no, sand is sand. So people are
Right.
people. Like
Yeah.
there's human nature, and then there's uniqueness within that human nature.
Yeah.
So yes, but the trouble is that in our society, our Western culture, we're so focused on the individual and being the best and being number one and being unique and
Hmm.
standing out and being our own specific special grain of sand that we forget that we're all on the same beach, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And it is a
Uh,
lonely place. Like you can be alone, like in a crowd, because we're so in our own heads thinking about all of our own uniqueness that we don't recognize and I don't know. God, for whatever reason, my brain with analogies. I'm like, I feel like sand, but more sand in a cat box. Because there are times where I feel like I'm just getting peed on and clumping together, and then there are times where I feel like I'm stuck to a turd. Um, but
oh man.
yeah, and so yeah, some days are better than others for sure,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I think it's where we spend our focus. Where is our attention going? And
Right.
so when we learn to control our attention, that's going to make the big difference.
So true. Yeah. If your
So
attention is just on your problems and that's all you're looking at, then have fun with that.
yeah,
It's not gonna make itself better. Um,
no, no,
well,
typically not. So
I don't
okay,
really have like, a bullet list of things that I wanted to cover this week. I can tell
where's
you
your post-it?
I this is my post-it for today.
Oh, I didn't see anything. I didn't see
There's
anything
nothing
on
on
there.
it. No,
Ah,
so I have tried to go the last week without using the post-it,
okay,
just doing it in Asana, and I hate it. It's
okay,
fine, but I don't get the satisfaction. So yeah, I have to write down the things.
okay,
But you know, I so I'm a big like routine person. Especially my morning routine. I have like my morning routine that I do. I've done
yep,
it for years,
yep,
and so part of what I want to, I only have so many hours during the day, but like when my family is not home, and I work from
okay,
home, so um,
mm-hmm,
where I can work distraction free, let's say, for the most part. And I'm really good with like, me, like if I have something on my calendar, my phone's not making noise, it's all autopilot. And
right,
then, if I remember at the end of the day, I'll check my my texts and check my
right,
messages and stuff. But I have last week I started a change. I flipped my morning routine. I changed the order of some things
okay,
because I've gotten lazy with
okay,
time management a little bit.
okay.
Like I want to
You mean
maximize
like
that time.
you mean like writing lists on post-its?
No, no, that's not lazy. That's
No,
that's
you've gotten away
duplicate.
from that,
No,
so
I for a while I've gotten away from reading as much as I want to.
ah, yeah, yeah.
It's been more podcasts and less reading.
Okay,
And I've gotten away from being like really, really locked in on to a schedule.
okay,
So I'm not maximizing that time. Like, I might finish my workout around 9, some days
right,
9:30. Well, then
okay,
after I like shower and clean up and have breakfast, it's like I'm losing day. I'm losing daylight hours,
yeah, it's
And
lunch by the
so
time you're done.
yeah, and like all that means is I have to work later,
Right,
or work, while I'm sitting on a couch or my chair, at night, and that's not like I'm not present. So, um, what I have tried to do, I've changed. I'm getting up at 4:45, which not my favorite. Um, and the first thing I do is work out before I drink coffee, anything. And I hate it, but it's going back to that thing we were talking about, doing the hard thing first.
okay,
Um, what I have been doing, what I'd done for years was make my coffee and sit down and read, and kind of slowly enter my day. And then
ease
spend some time
into the
with my
day.
wife whenever she woke up. And
Right,
then after that, I would go and work out.
Right.
And I'm just trying to be a little more, I'm trying to steward my time better. And so
Okay.
getting that workout out of the way, um, then coming in and rewarding myself with the coffee and the reading, trying to stay on a schedule, still having that time with my wife, and then
Sure.
being ready for the day, like read and ready by
Mhm.
8.
Oh, okay.
So that's it has been going really well until yesterday. And
Okay.
yesterday sucked. What I noticed is I've been waking up a little before my alarm.
Yep.
And so then my alarm goes off and I'm ready to go.
Yep.
Feet on the ground, no hitting snooze. And yesterday I woke up about, I don't know, an hour and a half before. I woke up at like 3:30, 3:15, something
Okay.
like that. And I was like, okay, well, I'll roll over and go back to sleep. For whatever reason,
Your cycle was
that
off
sleep
at that
cycle,
point.
I was in the middle of it when my alarm went off. And so I hit snooze a couple of times. When I did get up,
Ow,
I
that's a
walked out
problem.
to the garage. I looked at the temperature. I was already cold. I looked at the
Uh-huh.
temperature and I was like, not feeling that. And so just like going from feeling like empowered and really just crushing it.
Right.
Yesterday was a bump in the road. And so I
Sure.
I said, forget it. I'm going to spend time. I'm going to make my coffee. I'm going to read. I did it the opposite way. I still got my
Mhm.
workout in and still got everything done. But the rest of the day, it was a little bit of it was a struggle. It wasn't the just killing it. Still making progress. But it
Sure.
was like instead of getting the things done that I really needed to get done, I cleaned out my inbox. That's great. I no longer have, a bunch of I say inbox, my HubSpot, bunch of conversations or tickets and stuff that needed to be closed. I am sitting today in a better and more organized and less cluttered space.
Right.
But you ever do that thing where it's like you really don't want to do this thing that you need to do,
Yep.
but I'm going to be productive. I'm going to do this other thing.
So that I can
And
justify not
so
doing
I
that
could,
thing.
yeah, like I'm not going to do
Uh-huh.
this thing, but I'm going to still be productive and I'm going to
Uh-huh.
still be busy. So yesterday was one of those days. Today I'm back on track,
Man, I was like, you just summed up every single salesperson's life when it comes to making calls.
Nice.
I'm not going to
Okay.
make calls, but what I will do is and they'll do everything else. And it's like, what's the most productive thing you do? Calls. What's the thing that makes you the most money? Calls.
Calls.
It's 10% of what you do gleans 90% of your income.
Yeah.
But it's the worst 10%. Nobody likes doing it. Yeah. Man, I'll tell you what, when it comes to morning coffee, I have now gotten to the point where we still have to talk about that half calf. I got to get you doing the half calf thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to need
Yeah.
that sooner rather than later as an extra bag, like a fifth bag a month. I'm going to need the half calf. Um,
I got you.
okay. Um, man, I'm starting to like fantasize at night about getting up in the morning and making my coffee because my brother-in-law, I don't know if I mentioned, my brother-in-law brought back his espresso maker. I thought I was
Okay.
going to get one for my birthday or Christmas or what. I didn't. But he's like, man, I'm out of town so much. And realistically, like we make affogatos and we make like the ice cream
Nice.
with this everything at your house anyway. He's like, I'm bringing it over every other weekend to your house. I might as well just leave it here. And I was like, okay, let's do that. So he's left it. And oh man, I'll tell you, every morning, my wife is hysterical because she would drink 1 cup black coffee, the good one
Yeah.
from roast of the week. And now she's like, you know what? It's amazing. She's like, it's March, and it's been since like whatever, October, September since we had it. And then didn't have it for like a month, and now it's back. And she's like, it hasn't lost its glamour. Like it
Right.
hasn't lost its excitement. She's like, every single morning, I'm excited to have an amazing cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And I make her oat milk lattes now. And
Okay.
so we
Yeah.
get the oat milk and I put 3/4 oat milk, 1/4 full fat milk. So I still get a little bit of foaming action happening. But it's lighter, it has a lighter mouthfeel, so it's not so heavy and
Right.
fatty.
Yeah.
But yeah, just It's so fun. First of all, it's so fun to make it and to try and pour the design on the top, which I'm still terrible at. But
Me too.
I do that, give it to, and it's so fun to that. And we sit in the morning, we just have our cup of coffee. It's gotten to where now, because I wake up every morning like 3 in the morning anyway. I just do. And if I wake up at 5, knowing I have to get up at 6:30, I have a problem. Because if I wake up at 5, I'm like, well, at this point, I'm going to lay here awake until the alarm
Right.
goes off, or I can get up. But
Yeah.
I'm not going back to sleep because if I do, it's going to take me until 6 to get back to sleep, and then I'm going to be in a coma at 6:30. And
Right.
so my wife will wake up and she'll hear me, and she's like, she whispers it really soft just to check if I'm awake, and I'm like,
Right.
yes. And she's like, cappuccinos. Like, yes. So we get up and go make cappuccinos and just sit and watch the sun come up. And she's like, did you ever think we would be those people enjoying just watching the sun come up? And I was like,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
but what a wonderful life. Like,
Right.
realistically, like, yeah, I still have to work. And yeah, I'm still, she's grinding and she's working. And we're both working, but we're not grinding to someone else's 9 to 5, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And we still get time to spend with one another. Like, I'm so grateful that I have somebody I actually like spending time with, that it is, I don't know, life really is good. There are obviously things I wish that I could add to it, but it's like at this point the base cake is perfectly moist chocolate cake. Like, yes, I could use a little extra frosting because I'm a frosting person, but at the same time I'm like, no, we got the recipe right. Like, we
Yeah.
really did make a great cake. Like, this is,
Yeah.
it's awesome. Um, I don't know why I went there, but oh, the coffee.
Yes.
I've gotten to where I'm excited every morning, of course, but now I'm starting to get excited as I'm falling asleep. I'm like, oh, tomorrow make the cappuccinos. I'm gonna do, like, I'm so thrilled with that, and we've kind of adjusted our eating. I don't want to call it a diet, but we've adjusted our diets, our consumption, of the
The
way we eat,
nutrition. Yeah.
the way we eat food, and the sheer amount we eat. Because I've come to the realization that I don't need to be stuffed every time I eat. And we have been messing around with eating fiber, like vegetables and fibrous foods, and then
Yeah.
protein, and not in large amounts, in much smaller amounts, and feeling fuller for longer. So just adjusting the food, the order we eat it in, and then drastically lowering the carbs, which I know I need carbs for my brain, right?
Right. Right.
I need that. Um, but I noticed if I eat them first, then I feel so tired after I've eaten, versus
Right.
if I eat them last, I still get the benefit of the glucose, but I don't get the spike, or at least it's
Right.
not as drastic. And I
Right.
know there's some science to that or whatever, which is kind of what got us working on it. And I haven't done the tests. I don't have the patch or the monitors or anything. I can just tell you it's made a difference in the way I feel.
Right. Right.
So still doing martial arts, still getting much better flexibility. All of the numb spot in my back is going away, but I do have to start working out. And hearing you being like, nope, man, I'm working out. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing extra push-ups like throughout the week. I'm starting to do more push-ups to get more limber, trying to, stretch and stuff. But I want to, I miss the resistance, like the weight. I miss
Yeah.
pushing. It sounds dumb, but I miss pushing weight.
No,
Like,
I mean,
I know you
honestly,
just push
that's
it
the
back
part
and
I
forth,
like. Yeah.
like, but
The
I
part I
really
hate is
do.
cardio. I just
Oh,
ugh. And I've been
dude.
starting out one of the changes I've done is doing hit cardio
Yes.
at the
I
beginning of my lifting days. And that's
Okay.
why I'm not looking forward to it, because I've got
Right.
to do 4 minutes of 100% effort, back and forth, 100% for 15 seconds, rest for 15 seconds. Do that for 4 minutes, and
Uh-huh.
it sucks, and I hate it. But
Oh,
once
yeah.
I'm done, I'm
Yeah.
ready to go, and then I get
It's
to do
still
the fun
better.
part.
It's
Yeah.
it's way better. But I'll tell you what, doing hit training in a group on a mat is
Oh, yeah.
so much more rewarding, and
Yeah.
you don't you feel it physically, but you don't feel it mentally. If I'm on a
Okay.
treadmill trying to do hit, oh God, you might as well pull my teeth out. Like
Right.
I'd rather do chores. I'd rather mow the lawn.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Give me a
when
shovel.
we're there and he's like, run down, touch the line, run back, and you have to sprint to where you're
Right.
almost losing balance. And if it isn't fast enough, run down, touch the line, and come back, and you do it again. And then it's like, okay, now hop down to the line and then run back. And so you hop, so you're just about balance and using like your legs and stuff because you have to like hop all the way down and then you have to like stay low but hop and then hop and circle down the mat,
Oh my
which
gosh.
I'm like, when is that ever useful? Okay, I'm never going to use that, but it's about the balance and the cardio and the sheer strain it puts on your legs. Like it's horrible. But I'm like, oh my God, if he asked me to just do standing lunges or standing crunches or what is it? Standing squats, I'd barf. But
Right.
doing it the other way, you don't notice it, you don't feel it.
Right.
So I got to say that part's a lot better, but I'm not getting the weights. I'm not getting that part. So I need
But
that.
you're functional. I mean, that's the big thing. Like I'm I don't know. Like I need to incorporate more functional like
Mhm.
strength training than just lifting weights, you know. And I do here and there. I did a lot a couple years ago when I was going through physical therapy after, my motorcycle accident and knee surgery and all that stuff. I had to.
Right.
Then when I didn't have to, I was like, oh, I love not doing it. I get to go back to boring things. Like I
Yes.
really enjoy lifting heavy, however many reps and heavy, whatever, heavy
Yes.
for
I
me.
understand what you're saying.
Uh,
You're not
Going to
powerlifting.
failure and then taking a minute rest and then doing another set and then taking a minute rest. Like it's lazy lifting. It's the
Uh-huh.
opposite of CrossFit, which is great and everything, but
Uh-huh.
that's not what I grew up in. I grew up
No.
in weightlifting, and so, um,
Right.
but yeah, incorporating the cardio, that's been the big change, and
Yep.
doing hit before. So I'm doing like 4 minutes a hit on those lifting days, 3 days a week, and then 3 more days a week I'm doing cardio rowing machine. So my hit is on like what an assault bike is.
Yes.
It's like, it's got
Yeah, the
the arms that
handlebars
go
go
back and
back and
forth.
forth and
Yeah, and then it's got fan blades.
Yep.
It sucks. It definitely sucks. But at the same
But it's an
time, you walk.
electric one, right, that you're doing.
No, it's
So
it's
you're twisting the wheel all the way up, and then
well,
twisting it
there's
all the
there's
way
not even
low?
adjustment. The faster you go, the harder the resistance is.
Oh, okay. Well, that's better.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's better than having to twist the resistant and then go for 15 seconds and then try and twist it back.
Yeah, no. So
You
it's
need
I mean,
a
it's
cordless
specifically
drill hooked to it.
yeah, it's from my cousin's CrossFit gym.
Oh, okay.
I like I got it from her and
The harder you pedal, the harder it is
pretty
because
much
the fan blade. I gotcha.
yeah, because it's moving air. Air is the resistance. Um,
Right. I gotcha.
yes, yes, and then it
Yep.
does
Yep.
have some momentum that it kind of
Sorry.
goes, but
I don't know why I'm over here doing sound effects, but
I
I think sound effects work well for a podcast, so this is okay.
they do. Oh my
Um,
gosh, there's so much stuff we can't get into it today, but like there's so much in AI. Part
oh,
of
we
that
haven't even touched on AI
I
at
know.
all.
It's like well,
Well, that's
we'll
good.
cover it.
Now we
We'll
have
cover it
something
in
for the
the
next podcast.
after show, the after
Oh,
hour. Oh, yeah,
yeah.
which we
So
haven't talked
let's let
about.
everybody know what that is. Um,
So we
so,
now have a Patreon, like
mhm,
every other podcaster.
right.
But if you just can't get enough of the excitement that is us, or if you're just like you pity us and you feel like you want to support us in some fashion, we have a Patreon. You can check us out. We're Minding Your Business Podcast on Patreon, and there'll be a link to it from our website. But basically, we go through after we hop off here. It's much more casual, and it's actually us working on our stuff. So instead of talking here and you know pontificating, we
Right.
are actually working on things. And so, like this week, I want to show you some of the things I ran across in the last week in AI and some of the fun things
Yeah.
where I think
I
we can take
and
advantage
I
of things.
we have to add what I believe is the most exciting part, and it's honestly it's the most exciting. Probably not for everybody out there, but the most exciting for me, and that is that anybody that's part of the Patreon club group, whatever, people that are patrons. Anyway, they are going to get the ability to speak live, like ask us questions and talk to us. You don't even have to ask us anything because I may not have an answer for you. You can tell us something. Tell us about what's going on with your business.
Right.
Tell us what's going on. But I want to be able to connect with people. This is why and for the listeners who listen to more than just this episode, you know that we went live on, oh my God, we've tried to do this live on like every single platform to get to talk to people in real time so that we can actually connect with the people that have an interest in what we're discussing. And we tried it on Facebook. We've tried it on YouTube. We've tried it on Twitch. Is it Twitch? Let it be Twitch. Let it be Twitch. TikTok. We've tried it on all of them. And it's amazing the feedback we get after going live. And maybe it's the times we're doing it.
Sure.
But I think I'm looking forward to not only being able to do that, but there's going to be that question and answer section where you can get on as a patron. You can add your questions, and then we will record the answer for you live, or discuss it, or make fun of you. I don't know. Whatever comes up is going to come up for reals there.
Right.
So it is what it is. But that's the part I'm excited about, is actual like interpersonal connection with everybody out there listening.
Yeah.
Give them a place
I think that,
reach out and touch
we both have wanted to like have this community of people that we're all kind of chasing the same goals. We're trying to build something. We're trying to improve something. We're trying to just be better, right? To iterate.
Right. Yeah. Oh my God. And I want people to call in or to join up that know more than I do.
Right.
I would love
that,
because if you could share an insight, we'll have you maybe even have you on the podcast for everybody to hear, or use some of your pre-recorded. I don't know. I'm not the tech person. But I love the idea of this being a community more than it being just me and you.
Right.
And not that, you and I aren't that, we're great, but I think it's kind of like, yes, let's go back to the salt and pepper analogy. Salt and pepper is awesome, but how many more spices do you have in your drawer than that? I got like 90. Like we have 3 drawers filled with just spices.
I just want to know who's salt and who's pepper.
Oh God. Well, let's go with me being pepper, because I crack up. I don't know. I was kind of researching something there. And
I'm super salty. Let's just say that.
Yeah. I'm like, I grind. No, I don't know. Anyway, there's something there. So if you know what it is, please send it in. I'll use it on the next podcast. Yeah. So there we are. So let's wrap it up.
That's it. Well, until next week, mind your business.
There it is.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Minding Your Business podcast. Your hosts are Aaron Gerals and me, CJ Jolliffe. If you want to find out more about us, or when we're going live, or follow us on socials, just go to our website, mybpodcast.com. And again, thank you so much for listening.